Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour panel talk.
All sides.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour panel talk, where we come together every Tuesday evening to talk about current events and everything going on in the world, in our neighborhood, in the country, or just really things that are happening that might pique your interest. Now, there's a couple interesting things that happened this weekend, and something that I know that we do talk about a lot because several of us are fans of the show is SNL. So, did you guys watch SNL this weekend? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power.
Oh, what's going on? I hear you.
Okay, perfect. So, did any of you guys watch SNL this weekend?
You know what? I fell asleep. Dang it.
No.
I usually do watch it, though.
So usually we all watch SNL. And on the Weekend Update, for those of you who don't know, SNL is a skit show, and they have this one segment called the Weekend Update. And on the Weekend Update, Michael Shea and Colin come and they talk about current events. And they made a joke. And this joke has caused several groups to be upset. And the joke was, Israel is reporting the vaccinated half of the population. I'm going to guess it's the Jewish half. And this one joke has put a lot of people into a frenzy. They're very upset about the joke. They're saying that the joke is anti-Semitic, and they're calling upon SNL to apologize for this joke. Now, some people are saying that this joke is just another joke and people need to get over it, and other people are saying that SNL needs to be more aware of the jokes that they are saying. So what do you guys think? So Sohaila, I'm going to start with you because I know you have a lot to say.
Oh, yes. Well, I see nothing wrong with it. It was a joke. And SNL is, that's it. It's SNL. Come on, right? Come on. So, yeah, it was a joke. People have to lighten up. They really have to lighten up.
And then, Wade, what do you think about the joke? Or just about PC culture in general?
It's a joke, not a dick. Don't take it so hard.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're going to get canceled. And then, Stephanie, what do you think about SNL and the joke?
Well, I mean, SNL, that's their tradition. From day one, they have been offensive. And the thing is that they're equal opportunity offensive. They don't pick on one particular group. They go for everybody. And I think there's a word for it, and I can't think of what the word is, but when you make fun of how, like, you take things that are in the culture, in society, and you kind of blow them up, make them bigger, and you make fun of them.
Satire.
Satire, thank you, yeah. They're very good at that, and I think this is just another instance of that. And why take that away from them? That is just who they are.
Now, as we're looking at SNL, because every once in a while SNL will get a lot of backlash. A couple of weeks ago, they received backlash from the trans community because, and again, it was Michael Shea who stated that when Biden decided to allow trans military members to serve again, he stated it's good news, except for Biden is calling it the don't ask, don't tuck policy. And when he said this joke, again, the trans community said that Michael Shea from SNL was being transphobic. And as we look at these jokes nowadays that we hear people saying, when we look at people making these jokes that some people can find offensive, the question is, who is the judge of which jokes are offensive? And when we look traditionally, if we look at jokes from the past, we do see there are jokes from the past that we all can agree were offensive. And I'll give you the example of, a century ago when blackface was accepted, where blackface was widely accepted, where a white person could put on blackface and act like a fool on stage. They could literally put this blackface on and act like a fool. And we have decided that that's not okay and that we cannot do this. So who is it today? Who gets to decide if a joke is okay or if it's too offensive. And again, going back to the whole cancel culture, who should be canceled? So Sohaila, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, who is the one that is going to decide? I believe that if you're going to do something, do it correctly, get out there and just make it happen. And, you know, if you're always going to be afraid of going out there and afraid of saying what's truly on your mind, then I believe everybody has to just wear a muzzle, because everybody's going to be offending everybody at some point. So, you know, it is what it is. And what are you going to do about it? It's just that it is what it is. Again, things happened many years ago. Now people don't like it now. Again, who's to say? I don't know, but I think it's ridiculous.
And then, Wade, what are your thoughts?
Look, we're equal opportunity offenders here at Smoke and Bacon. So the more we offend you, the better off we are. So I believe everybody needs a little offending every now and again. Kind of like every kid doesn't deserve a trophy just for showing up. You know, same logic, same principle. If you raise a society of people who cannot handle conflict in any way, shape, or form, then you've raised a society of, and the word I'm going to say is slaves, but that's really what you've raised. You've raised a bunch of people that are so passive that they will not stand up for themselves, and they won't fight back. They'll just do whatever said. Everybody's going to be so passive, so they're smiling at each other. People are going to snap. So.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stephanie, what's your thoughts?
I remember Wayne Dyer. Do you remember Wayne Dyer? He I heard him speak once, and I remember him saying that.
Stephanie, sorry, can you bring your hearing up a little bit? We could hardly hear you.
Yeah. Is that better?
Mm-mm.
No?
It may be the mic. It may be the microphone.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me try here. Is that better?
Is it plugged in all the way?
Yeah, it is.
But try it without your earplugs on.
Well, then I can't hear you.
Maybe, yeah, just try them without your earplugs. Let's see if that works. But you have to unplug it then. Go ahead and unplug them.
She did. Now she's got to
okay.
unmute it.
There's no mic attached.
Oh, now she has to unmute you.
All right. Now, can you hear me now?
Much better, yes.
Okay. So what I was talking about was Wayne Dyer, who had once said that if you want to be offended, you can be. There's so many opportunities to do that, but that we need to find another way to be able to be in the world. It's very similar to what Wade was just saying, that, you know, we just need to find a way to hear what the other person has to say and not be so immediately take personal offense to it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that people like to say is that communities that feel disenfranchised, so communities that may not enjoy the same rights as other communities, usually are the butt of the jokes. And when they're the butt of the jokes, they see it as jokes are being used to hold them down. And when jokes are being used to hold people down, that's when it becomes offensive. Now I'm going to go back to the blackface. Now, back during these minstrel shows, white people putting on blackface was used as a form of oppression because they were trying to show that Black people were ignorant, stupid. They had the whole coon imagery. And because of that, they were using comedy that people would sit and watch and laugh with to go ahead and continue to push that stereotype that Black people are stupid. Now, as we are now in 2021, we do have communities that are still disenfranchised. Do you guys believe that when a community that is disenfranchised becomes the butt of the joke, that the joke is offensive, or do you think that people should just continue joking on, whoever gets hurt gets hurt? And then
Well,
Wade, we'll go to you first. Oh, go ahead, Sohaila. Go ahead, Sohaila.
Well, no, I just feel that we've become so sensitive in everything that's going on. And people have to open up and realize, look, this is life, and we have to keep moving past those issues. And again, you can't, you're not going to agree with everyone, no matter what you do. And not everybody's going to like you either, no matter what you say or what you say, what you don't say. So again, you just have to be you, and just if you want to say something, you should be able to say it without feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble for this, or I'm going to get canned, or I'm going to get fired. It's like, really, enough's enough. People have to lighten up, especially what's going on. Wade?
So there's a comedian, Steve Hughes, and I think he really said it best. And I'm just going to paraphrase him here. It's a really funny skit, but it's honest. And he pretty much says, when did sticks and stones not apply anymore? All right? People, you say something, someone's like, I'm offended. Okay. So the fuck what? You're offended. What are you going to wake up with leprosy tomorrow? No, there's absolutely nothing that happens when you're offended other than you're offended. Your foot doesn't fall off. You don't get hit by a car. You don't lose your job. You're just offended. Get the fuck over it. Have a conversation with someone or move the hell on. If you don't like what's on TV, turn the channel. You're muted, Mel.
And then Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I don't watch SNL because they say things that really I find hurtful, but I don't believe that they should be apologizing every time they say something that offends someone. I think there's a difference between comedy that is maybe borderline, whether it's offensive or not. But there's a difference between that and being in let's say, a work environment where your boss is making fun of you because of your size or the color of your skin or whatever it is that makes you different. That's very different to me, because then that's using your power in a different way. But comedy has always been that area, it seems to me anyway, it's always been that area that has been allowed to kind of blur the lines, if you will, in terms of what's okay and what's not okay. And SNL in particular has just really always just really pushed the limits. So, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions. I'm asking a couple questions. I want to see what you guys think are offensive or what's not offensive. Rape jokes. Do you guys believe that rape jokes are offensive, or they're just jokes? And don't be shy to jump in and let me know what you guys think.
To me, that's totally different. I mean, rape jokes, to me, that doesn't belong out there. But that's me, because it's people just take it offensively easily. I think talking about more the body thing, something like that, I don't like. But that's me personally. But again, I'm not going to go to the newspaper and say they did this or whatever. It's just what it is. But
I think everything's fair game. Tasteful, untasteful, or offensive or not. If you go to a comedy show, for example, you are choosing to actively go to that show. You are choosing to let me offend you in some way, shape, or form. And if I haven't offended you yet, just wait. I'll get to you. All right? So, you've actively chosen to go there. No one's held a gun to your head. No one's dragged you in, arms and legs bound. Same thing with watching SNL.
mm-hmm.
And then Stephanie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's like any other type of offensive jokes. It's only when you're you have the experience of being that person. Do you know what I mean? So if you've been raped, then you're going to have a different feeling about that and perspective about that than someone who hasn't. But it's, again, it's comedy. And so then, okay, that comedian tells jokes that are not okay for you. And so you don't go to their shows. You don't listen to what they have to say. And I think where it gets a little dicey is when people feel like because you're joking about a particular area, that then you're saying it's okay to have that behavior. And I think that's where Mel, that's where your question is coming from. And again, I just have to go back to it's comedy. And so I don't personally find it funny, but some people do.
So going to the comments, Joanna says rape is a no-no. I do agree with that. I think making jokes like rape jokes do push it too far. But I also know there's a very, very clear divide between generations of what people think is funny and what people don't think is funny. The younger generations, millennials and Gen Zs, they very much abide by that PC style culture where they say that certain jokes are inappropriate. But if you look at Gen X and baby boomers, they're all for whatever joke is whatever joke. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to another topic is I know a lot of people. And I know people who have certain prejudices. And a lot of times I will see people who are prejudiced, who are misogynist, who are racist, who are homophobe, use humor in order to talk about things that they couldn't openly talk about. So let's say that they have a prejudice against Mexicans. I will know they'll have a prejudice against Mexicans, but in order for them to talk about it openly, they'll use humor in order to talk about their dislike of Mexicans. They'll call them wetbacks. They'll call them various things, and they'll wrap it up in humor in front of people, but behind closed doors, they still hold those prejudices. Do you guys believe that sometimes people just wrap things in humor in order to quote unquote spread their hate? Or you guys again just continue with like jokes are jokes and people should lighten up?
I think it's probably both.
Everyone jumped in all at once. Let's go to Stephanie first.
So I think that when you're talking about one-on-one situations, you have an opportunity to express your alternate opinion. So if you're not agreeing with what they're saying and you're seeing that they're wrapping it in a joke so they can talk about it, first of all, it tells you a little bit about who they are. So that's good information to have in my book. And secondly, you have the opportunity then to say something back. Sometimes people they'll start to tell a joke and they'll say this, they'll introduce it as this Black person or this Hispanic person or whatever. And then they tell the joke and the person's race had absolutely nothing to do with the joke. Well, I always ask, why did you bring up what race they were? Was that germane to the joke or to what you're trying to say? And it just kind of opens people's eyes. When you're at a comedy show, you don't have the opportunity to do that, but one-on-one, you certainly do.
Joanna says exactly. And then Wade, what are your thoughts?
So I'm going to tell you a joke. All right. How does every off-color joke in the world start?
How?
So, and it's funny, but it's not funny because every person has a different sense of humor. Every person deals with things differently in their life. And personally, I think humor can be used to overcome a lot of things. It can be used to educate, and it can be used to push your agenda. it's up to you, the listener, the consumer, to use that lump above your ass, your brain, and figure out which one it is.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I believe people should lighten up. It's like me, I teach dancing, and some of the girls, when they're doing a choreography or something, and I really push them hard. But after they say, well, how do we do it? I said, you guys sucked.
Right?
Right? Yes. It's like, and it's true, but I did it as a joke at the same time.
I've
And,
seen Russian
you know,
monkeys dance better than you.
But the thing is, I mean, people know who you are. If you're more of a jokester, but a lot of people, when they're just seeing something on TV, of course, it's going to be totally different. But I believe people really have to lighten up, or, put it in your mindset. Okay, well, if I'm offended by that, why am I offended by that in the first place? Why don't you think about why is it offending you in the first place? But people are just taking too much to the extreme. They really are. And I believe it's because of everything that's going on right now. Everybody's uptight about every goddamn thing that's going on in the world right now, right? And I believe that people like to make excuses too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one too, I think.
Well, when we get emails that say we've offended people, my instant response is to respond with them with one word. And how does that affect your life?
Yeah.
Are you going to go home and cry now because I offended you? Do you have to quit work? I mean,
Yeah.
So.
And all of us have been offended before,
Mhm.
once, 3 times, 10 times, whatever. I mean, a lot probably in our lifetime, right? But, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, some people don't really mean to offend you. Some people really want to offend you. But again, it's what you do. It's your opportunity to do what you want to do. If you want to decide that you're offended and you're going to do something about it, then go do something about it. But everybody has their own judgments too.
So we're not going to get into today. We're going to move on to the next topic because we've been definitely talking about this about 20 minutes, 5 minutes longer than we were supposed to be talking about it. But I do want to come back to it on a later date and really talk about how it affects communities as well. Because today we spoke about a little bit about SNL, but then about PC in general. But I also want to come back at a later date and talk about how these words can actually affect communities that are disenfranchised. But that is for a later date because I want to know what the hell was going on with Texas.
Oh, right. Today was 80 degrees in Austin, Texas. 80 degrees. Clear, beautiful sky. No, actually, just not a cloud in the sky. Unbelievable. Crazy.
Look, they say everything's bigger in Texas, including the ice storms.
So, for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure all of you know that Texas experienced a snowstorm. Now, Texas is not used to experiencing snowstorms, even though they experienced a smaller one 10 years ago. So anyway, Texas had a snowstorm, which in itself was something that shocked a lot of people. But the big deal about what happened in Texas was everyone lost power. And we're going to talk about Cruz as well, Ted Cruz, afterwards. Let's talk about what's actually happening in Texas. So several million people were without power for several days in freezing temperature in Texas. And there was a lot of different rumors going around. Essentially, the thing that we all know is that Texas is off of the national grid and they take care of their own power and their own electricity. And a lot of people were blaming Texas's independence from the national grid as part of the reason why they experienced such horrible blackout, especially since El Paso, which is in Texas, is on the national grid and they were A-OK. So let's go to Wade first.
So being a tradesman, I can tell you that depending on where you do your work, there are different requirements. So, for example, here in Virginia, when we had the ice storm, yeah, there were people that lost power, but 80% of the state did not because we know how to string wires across poles in the open air to handle an ice load. We have sections of wire that actually they're looped. So the wire can almost be double as long. So when it's weighed down by ice, those loops release. the wires fall, they don't break. That's not something Texas would do. Texas is an open air, dry environment. They would not engineer their grid to be able to handle ice and snow, which is significant. Water alone is 8 pounds per gallon. So you can imagine if you have a span of 50 foot of wire and it's covered in an inch of ice, that's a few 100 pounds of weight on that wire. So I'm not surprised that most of the state lost power because of the grid failing. And it wouldn't matter if they were on the national grid or not. The only thing that would matter is if their lines were underground or not. And they wouldn't do that either, where we do that up here in the Northeast because of the snow and things like that. I didn't lose power at all. All my wires are underground.
So going to the comments really quickly, Joanna says, what about the electric bills they've been receiving? Crazy. I will talk about that. I think one person received a bill for like
$17,000. $17,000. Oh my God. Yeah.
And again, and then Angel.
Insult to injury. Crazy.
So
the hell they got going on? A marijuana grow house?
And that's the thing is because since Texas is not on the grid,
they're not regulated.
It's not really regulated.
Right.
Because they're not on the national grid, they don't have to abide by the laws or the rules or the regulations that applies to every other state in America. So when there was such a supply for demand, there was actually one company that sent out messages to its consumers, to its customers, and said, listen, you're going to get a crazy bill, either switch providers right now and come back later, or you will get a crazy bill, because they were selling electricity wholesale to their consumers.
Mm.
Now, a lot of things went wrong in Texas. For this to happen, a lot of things went wrong. And it wasn't just that things went down. There was I know we were talking about like the type of lines they had, and Wade was explaining like the different types of lines, but it wasn't just that. The systems were just completely overloaded. So even if lines were still in place, people still didn't have power because everything was just completely and utterly overloaded. And a lot of people are saying that Texas should have known better, because something like this happened 10 years ago, and they warned that it was going to happen again, and it could be bigger. And lo and behold, it happened again, and it was bigger. So Stephanie, what do you think about what was going on in Texas?
Well, I heard that that it came on very suddenly. Is that true? That like the day before the weather was fine, and then all of a sudden they're in the middle of this snowstorm. And I don't know a lot about the ins and outs of power grids and so forth, but I do know, I lived in Minnesota, North Dakota for a couple of years, and then I lived in Oregon for a while. And it would snow, we'd have snow and ice in Oregon. Well, Portland, Oregon would shut down, because it just wasn't capable of handling that. Well, the Midwest can't shut down because they would be closed all winter, right? So they figured out how to make it work. So it kind of sounded like when I was first thinking about this, it sounded like what Wade was describing earlier, that Texas just wasn't really ready for this. But then what I'm hearing now is that there's a whole nother level of issues that were going on. And I don't really understand all of that.
I believe they were ready, and I believe that they just wanted to make more money. And that's why a lot of those people are resigning right now.
Yep. A lot of people are resigning.
Yep.
A lot.
So I'm going to jump in on this for a second here, okay? So the load. What we got to understand about the load is the grid is overloaded, right? So let's assume the grid is up at 100%, and it's designed out there for air conditioning. Let's be honest. It's designed for air conditioning. It's not designed for heating. Now, when the grid's at 100%, when all the wires are up, when they can push out all the power, it's not a problem. As they start to lose wires, they have secondary systems that engage, and they try and push that power out to other places. Well, they don't have the capacity to be able to do that. Now let's factor in it's cold and everybody's plugging in space heaters at once, trying to heat up, because there's not a whole lot of heat in Texas. When you design an air conditioning system in Texas, you're designing for air conditioning. You're not designing for heat. The design for Texas is like 40 or 50 degrees for heating. So there's not a whole lot of heat that's built into these houses and buildings. So people are plugging in supplementary heat. That pulls on the grid even further, trying to suck down that power, which damages the grid even more. It's almost like Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation, where he plugs in his lights and the city dims and they got to add more power. Well, in this case, they can't add more power because the wires are broken and they're putting all the power they have out through the wires that are up.
So I'm going to actually add to Wade, because there's a couple of things coming out as well. So on top of what Wade was saying, many plants were actually down because they were doing scheduled maintenance to prep for the summer months where demand would usually be high. So during the winter in Texas, they'll randomly schedule different plants to shut down because they got to do maintenance for the crazy heat that's going to come in Texas. Now, they were also stating that some of the plants just couldn't work in the cold. The plants just were not equipped and they just could not function in the cold. And then the third thing that I know that was really coming out as well is natural gas. So a lot of the places, so Texas uses wind turbines, which we will talk about in a second, wind turbines, natural gas, and coal. Now, with the natural gas, one thing that Texas does not do is they do not store energy from natural gas. So basically, as they convert, they send it out. Now, with coal energy, what they do is they'll convert it to electricity, store, and send it out as it's needed. But with such a high demand, all the plants that were running on natural gas had nothing stored up. So it was convert, send, convert, send. But when there's such a high demand, they just wasn't in convert at the speed that they needed to convert. So those are a couple things. Wade really is the expert when it comes to this. So I'm just sprinkling the information I have. But the one thing that was interesting were people coming out and talking about the wind turbines being the reason why it was down. And after doing some research, I found that Texas was not even in the position to use a huge amount of wind turbines, because during this time of the year, there's lower wind, so they use less wind turbines at this time. And it was really, I think, 66% coal and gas and about 33% wind turbine energy. So it wasn't because the wind turbines froze. So do you guys think that that they were pushing up?
Then. The news gives us false information. Isn't that new?
So do you guys think that people are just using this tragedy, because many people died, many animals died, it was a big tragedy for Texas. Do you guys think that people are using this tragedy to push some kind of political agenda? It's good for you, Wade. I see your head nodding.
You mean the winter storm as a tragedy to push, you mean politics?
Not the winter storm, but just in general. So, and here's what I mean by that is our power grid was designed to last between, I think it's around 40 years without a complete replacement. And by complete replacement, that means everything from the power plant forward every 40 years approximately should be replaced. We're at 60 plus years on our power grid. They are not going to replace anything until it fails. Why would any company nowadays with the cost of things?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to just replace your floor because it's wore out. You're going to wait till there's chips in the floor, till the tiles are coming up. Same exact thing. And it's a bad situation. Again, Texas is not designed in its core to handle this kind of load from this type of event. We call these once a decade events. I'll give you an example. Here in Richmond, we have a flood wall around downtown Richmond. It was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. It has never been closed. All right. So it was built after downtown Richmond flooded as a prevention measure. We've never had a flood since that we've had to close it where the river is going to be that high. Millions of dollars were spent on this. Millions of dollars are spent every year on making sure it works, but we never need it currently.
Never say never, though, right?
Right. So how far do you build a utility system in an area that is normally dry, arid, and hot? Do you build it for these types of temperatures and events that are going to happen once every 10 years, once every 20, once every 50?
I believe they should, because they have an opportunity or obligation. Those are their people there. Those are their, everybody's there, and, they have to face the consequences. So they should have been more prepared. That's my opinion. I don't care if it was 10 years ago, they should have been prepared.
It's one of those things. It's how far do you prepare?
That's true.
You replace the entire grid system to prepare for an event that may happen every 10 years. I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is just logically, we can't sink trillions of dollars into replacing a power grid system, the towers, the wires, everything else. Because it's not just that stuff. It's also the electrical in the homes that has to be upgraded.
A lot, but they should have been more prepared. They knew the storm was coming, and they knew that it was going to be big. Come on, we have people out there that get on, go cover our forecasts every day on the news. They knew it was coming.
So now that $15,000 bill, I'm interested to know how much of that was a fuel surcharge.
I don't have the answers. I can look that up for you.
And the reason I say that is because it's true. So here in Virginia, for example, in the winter, we have a fuel surcharge that goes up. So in the winter, when they need more coal on the plants to be able to handle the load from all the heating equipment, we get a raised bill because they're bringing in more trains full of coal. In the summer or in the spring, we may get a rebate. So they say, okay, based off the forecast, we need 400 trains of coal. But in reality, we only use 300 trains of coal. We get some of that money back. I'm not saying that's the way anybody does it around the rest of the world or the U.S., but that's what happens here.
I believe that surcharge was $17K then.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a fuel surcharge. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going back to what.
I'm joking. Oh my gosh, I'm joking.
Oh no! I know. I just want to say. So when we think about electricity, I think outside of Texas, we think about it very differently, because essentially, if you look at the way that electricity is brought to all of us around the country, except for Texas, it's pretty much a monopoly in your area. Whether you have Con Ed in New York, whether you have Pepco, SNG here, Pepco in DC, there's that company, and you have no choice who you use. It's just
right.
Now in Texas, because they're off the national grid, you can be sitting here and you can have many different choices in order to pick who you're going to get electricity from. And they have it at different rates. They have it at different business models.
Like different tiers. I think majority of them took the tier option.
So one way that you can get electricity in Texas is at the wholesale rate. Now, if you get it at the wholesale rate, when you're not really using electricity, you save a lot of money. But when there's a massive use of electricity, your bill's going to go up. And that's where you're seeing these bills that are in, for 1 month, not even 1 month, for 1 week, that are five digits, like $17,000. Like that's insane. But because of the way that Texas has chose to give electricity to its people, that's pretty much the bill that you are now left with.
Well, I say all those bills should go to the power owners, the ones that resigned.
So, Stephanie, what do you think about this outrageous bill and how Texas does it versus how the rest of the country does it?
Well, it seems like this is like a wake-up opportunity for the people of Texas to decide if they want to. I don't know if they have some power in terms of voting or some kind of leverage that they can use to change the system so that it's more people friendly. Obviously, it's not really meant to be there for people. And we're seeing a lot of changes globally in our weather and our weather patterns. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to start thinking about what might be coming down the pike here sooner than later. So I don't know, maybe this is just this opportunity to do it differently.
So I think that's interesting. Texas is going to have to take a look and see if that's what they're going to want to do with their voting power. Now, this has to do with the great state of Texas and representatives from Texas, because Ted Cruz goes to Cancun. Now the
What
media
an ass, man. He's such an ass. Kick his ass out.
Now the media has definitely been divided. I know right-wing media has been saying, he could have went to Cancun. It was fine because there's something that he can do at the moment. And then the left-wing media is saying that he should stay there because his constituents are suffering. Now, I know people like AOC raised money and actually is bringing it to Texas to help people out. So do you guys believe that Ted Cruz should have canceled his Cancun trip? And honestly, I think it was booked last minute. So what do you guys think about Ted Cruz going to Cancun while millions of Texans had no heat or electricity during a winter storm?
He's a son of a bitch, and he shouldn't have went. That's what I say.
So I'm going to go back to my tradesman roots here. When I run jobs and I have a vacation coming up, whether it was pre-scheduled or not, and my job has gone to shit, I'm canceling my vacation and I'm going to help out.
There you go.
And then Stephanie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's like, seriously, dude. That was really not okay.
So
He's a wuss and he's a weasel.
Well, I heard that his excuse is that his family was cold, so he had the ability to, so he took him out of town. Okay, well, I can understand that your family's cold. Okay, there's a lot of families that are cold. You have the ability, the money, everything to send your family to a warm place. Okay, send your family to a warm place. Feel better about it. All right, my family's warm and secure. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to help out.
Where I'm needed. Did you hear about the furniture store that opened up? That was amazing. Oh my gosh. I wish there was more stores like that. That was amazing.
So I'm going to run the comments really quickly. Joanna says, I don't know what's going on with these public servants. They are selfish.
They're selfish. Very selfish.
So even though Ted Cruz ran to Cancun, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. I do want to talk about some feel-good things that did happen in Texas. One store owner, and I actually do not have the picture anymore, but one store owner had water bottles like outside of the store. And when she came back to her store, she saw that all the water bottles are gone. And she said, you know what? I knew this was going to happen. You know how stores will have like merchandise outside?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, you know what? I knew this was going to happen. I'm not really too concerned about it. People can't even get water out of their tap, so they can happen. She opened the store after everything that happened. People were literally sliding money for the water that they took. And she had about $600 on the floor inside the door because they had slid the money that they took for the water bottle. So there's a good story from Texas. But even though there are feel-good stories, we do have politicians like Ted Cruz who went to Cancun. Now, I think it was, what's his name? Ben Shapiro. I've always Shapiro, thank you. I always say his last name wrong. So I know Ben Shapiro was talking about what happened with Ted Cruz, and he said that the optics did not look good. He said, you know what? I know politics is all about optics, and the optics did not look good, but there's nothing that politicians at Ted Cruz level can really do at that moment, so it was okay for him to go. Do you guys believe that, number one, that politics are all optics, and then do you also believe that Ted Cruz could have done something if he was still in Texas? So I'm going to say this again. AOC in New York raised, $5 million for the people in Texas, and is going down there to bring aid, essentially. So do you guys think that, one, politics is all optics, and two, Ted Cruz could have done something if he did stay?
I think politics is all, look what I'm doing over here. Don't pay attention to what I'm doing over here.
Exactly. Yep. I agree.
So I think he's a dumbass though, because he could have done all sorts of stuff. He could have tried to find warming shelters. He could have said, "Hey, you know what? We've got shelters set up here, here, and here." He could have been an information distributor at the very least. He could have sat at home behind his computer and just distributed information, and that would have been more helpful than going to Cancun.
I definitely agree. It definitely would have been better than going to Cancun at that moment. So moving away from Cancun, unless anyone else wants to talk about this, do you guys still want to talk about Ted Cruz? I feel like it's just going to be good.
Not Ted Cruz, but I did find something while we were talking that I find interesting. So ERCOT is the power distribution conglomerate down there.
Yeah.
Did you know that there are 16 positions on the board, and out of those positions, 5 directors have to be completely unaffiliated with any market segment, i.e. they have to live outside of Texas, and those are the 5 that just resigned? Nobody in Texas from ERCOT has resigned. Only the 5 that lived outside of Texas have resigned.
Wow.
But
Interesting.
according to their mandate, they have to have 5 unaffiliated director positions out of the 16. I
Interesting.
find that interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. Wow. Well, I think their other ones have to resign too, or do something, or get fired. It's ridiculous.
Well, we'll see. There's either going to be a lot of people resigning, or there's going to be a lot of people being fired because it wasn't handled well.
Of course not. No, it wasn't at all.
Like from the political to the electric companies, it just was not handled well, and it still could have been a tragedy. It still could have been something that was unavoidable to an extent. Because I just want to remind everyone that El Paso, who is on the national grid, never lost power. So even with the way that everything was set up, I think if companies, politicians, if many different people would have done things differently, the tragedy wouldn't have been as big. And it really was a perfect storm. Like a lot of things had to go wrong. It wasn't just 1 or 2 things that had to go wrong. It wasn't just, there's a storm. It wasn't just like these places were shut down for maintenance. Like things fell in place perfectly and gave a perfect storm to the people of Texas. And unfortunately, many people suffered in Texas, and many people actually lost their life. Not only did people lose their life from freezing to death, but people lost their life from carbon monoxide poisoning, running their cars, or running generators improper. There was like so many different ways that people in Texas suffered, and many people died as well.
And that goes back to my original point: is how far do you prepare? Mm-hmm. Do you train people who live in a desert climate to go out and clear the snow around their tailpipe every so often so that they don't die from carbon monoxide poisoning? To here, that's common sense. Up here, that's common sense. If I'm buried in the snow and I'm running my vehicle to stay warm, every 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to get out, I'm going to clear my tailpipe. Mm-hmm. That's what we do here. That is not what would happen in Texas. So, and that's what I mean by that information distribution. And you could see it all over social media where people were teaching people how to make heaters with clay pots and how to put tents with Mylar blankets on their beds and how it would generate heat, things like that. That's the kind of information that should have been being distributed by the government down there. It's ad hoc, it's last minute, but it's something.
And then Joanna says, I love how Ted Cruz had on his Texas mask when crossing the border back to the U.S. Such a clown.
Not such a clown, such an ass.
Such an ass, according to Sohaila.
Yes.
If everything's bigger in Texas, that would include assholes.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
I actually like that one. I like that one, Wayne. So I think this is interesting. As the country is trying to pass another stimulus package, California has went ahead and passed its own stimulus package. Now, I don't know all the nitty-gritties about it because I still have to read. I did read some of it, but I did read a little bit of it. So Gavin Newsom has passed a stimulus package for the state of California, and I think it's about $7.6 billion in stimulus to the point where people who earn under $30,000 in the state of California will actually be getting a $600 stimulus check from California. So what do you guys think about California passing its own stimulus package? They're going to have, I think, about 2.1 billion in grants for businesses in California, and there's a lot of other things that are really going to be put into this. And again, California is taking control of it, but this is not a stimulus package passed by the United States government. This was a stimulus package passed by the state of California for the people of California. So what are your thoughts on that?
I say what took him so long, and he probably just doesn't want to be on that ballot to get out.
But I know people are saying what took him so long, but are there any other states passing a stimulus package that could rival the stimulus package?
Is it going to pass? Or is
it passed.
For sure?
It passed.
Oh,
it passed. He signed it. So it's like he put in a package and signed and approved. He approved a stimulus package that can rival what America as a whole is trying to do. So what do you think about it? I see that look on your face, Wade.
So I came from California. I left San Diego about 20 years ago. And it was almost impossible to live then on $30,000 a year. Mm-hmm. It is really impossible now. And there's actually a cost of living numerical grid. Let's assume 100 is the number, right? The overall cost of living in California is 1.5 times the national average. So if you're passing a stimulus package for people who make less than $30,000 a year, you have just admitted to your biggest problem in California. It has nothing to do with the stimulus package. It is simply the fact that this $7.6 billion that's going out is $7.6 billion worth of people that can't really live in California.
That's a good thinking. Didn't think about that. Yeah, he just admitted. But we have homeless everywhere too, so that's another issue.
Now, the stimulus package not only is going to include people who earn less than $30,000, it's also going to go to people who could not get the stimulus package before. So people who have the ITIN, so it's similar to the Social Security number. Gosh, what is it called?
The EIN number? EIN number.
No, not the EIN. That's for businesses. The ITIN number. So a lot of times you'll see that with people who are undocumented. You'll see that number with people who are coming in who maybe have a spouse that's American, they're not American, or for people who do business in America and they need some kind of Social Security number to file taxes, but they can't get a Social Security number because they're not a registered alien here. So that's going to go out to people also who have the ITIN plus who make under 30,000. So people who couldn't get the stimulus before. What do you guys think about that? And I'll go to Stephanie first. What do you think about people who have the ITIN number getting this California stimulus?
Well, that's a reality that of California. It's our population, and so I'm glad that there are a group of people that are being acknowledged. And I agree with Wade. I mean, that was my first thought. Like, so $600 to people whose income is under $30,000. Like, what is that? Like, what? I mean, good effort, or at least, you tried, but like, really? Like, what? I don't understand what that's supposed to do and why that seemed like a good idea. I don't really know, other than maybe just trying to make some kind of effort to do something for people. It's almost like giving the appetizer and then that's all you get. You don't get the meal. So I don't know.
Now we have to remember, California is not a country, right? Because I'm pretty sure that I don't think any other state has really passed a stimulus package like that, where they're giving a stimulus check to people. The federal government has. Remember, this is completely separate from the federal government. So my question is, do you think that California is stepping up to bat to try and fill in the blanks from the federal government? And the second part of that question is, do you guys think that other states are going to follow through? And actually, before I do that, I want to go to the comments. And Joanna says, "Oh my God, I was thinking the same thing, Wade." So everyone agrees with you, Wade.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I don't. I don't. But
that's
everyone-
okay. That's okay. And here's the thing. I'm going to say something really controversial. I don't agree with illegal immigrants getting the money. Not because they're people, not because they don't need help. There should be something else helping them. But I truly believe that America has the ability to bring in all these immigrants. That's what we were founded with. We are a melting pot, but do it the right way. And I understand that there are blockages, and I understand that there's paperwork and it can take years and things like that. But if you're attempting to do it the right way, I don't mind helping you. But from living in San Diego for so long, I can't tell you how many people I saw literally running down the freeway in San Ysidro because they made it through the border. And there's all sorts of different reasons for that and all that. But why should I, as an American citizen, after I send all this money that frankly we're just printing all over the world, and now I'm going to also send it to all the illegal immigrants here, limiting the ability to help the American citizen?
Now, I have a question for you. Because of the ITIN number, these are people who are paying into the system. So if you have the ITIN number, you're paying taxes when you work.
Correct.
Then I'm okay with it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
so
I
like
was
kids like
going to say that
dreamers.
too.
So kids like dreamers who parents brought them when they were kids, they
Right.
had came over the age of 3, went their entire schooling in America, went to college, graduated college, and are now working, even though they're still undocumented, even though they could possibly face deportation if the American government decides to switch things up on them. But they're working and they are paying into the tax system, and that's why they have the ITIN number.
Correct.
I don't agree with that. And here's why. All right. If you are here and you've went through school and you've went through your college and everything else, and you're working here and you're paying taxes, why the fuck aren't you trying to become a citizen?
But you
have to realize a lot of them have a lot. See, this opens a big can of worms because a lot of them have. I know a lot of them personally that got screwed by attorneys. So it's not their fault. They were doing everything right. So I mean, we could open it. We could take this for a full hour because I have lots to say about this.
So dreamers, they're trying to create a clear path to citizenship, but because of the way that they enter the country, again, I'm saying the way they enter the country, but because of the way that their parents entered the country and there's no clear path to citizenship for them.
You mean because they broke the law and didn't do it right from the beginning?
Well, remember, they were like 3, 4, 5.
Their parents broke the law and didn't do it right from the beginning.
They did, but they were, again, trying to give their kids a better thing. So are you really going to blame these kids who know nothing else but America? I mean, their parents could be Mexican, their parents could be Salvadorian, their parents could be from a host of different places. They're just here.
No, I don't think I would hold the kids liable.
And so that's
the parents, absolutely. The kids, not so much. If you knowingly broke the law to come here, and it was not a case of your life was in imminent danger, then why are we rewarding you?
Well, again, it opens a can of worms. You don't know. You're just assuming that they just came over here and did nothing. Like I said, 90% of them has gotten lawyers. They did everything right and they got screwed. So what are you supposed to do after that? They did the right thing.
I mean, I've heard of cases of people who joined the military, fought for this country.
I know people of that too, and they still not a citizen. Exactly. That's bullshit.
Yeah. So, it's really a contentious point because, if I rob a bank, all right, and I do it because somebody needs some medicine I can't afford, should I go to jail?
So I'm gonna change your analogy. If someone robbed the bank and they brought their 5-year-old child along for the ride. Should that child go to jail? They're there. They're just existing.
No.
Because like when we talk about dreamers, when we talk about a lot of people who have the ITIN number, that's what we're talking about. Like a lot of times it's just kids. They're just existing. They're literally
they're innocent in this. Their parents brought them along. All right.
But
And if they were born in the US,
system
they're a
too.
citizen. But the point of the matter still remains. Even if I bring my 5-year-old son with me or daughter with me and I rob a bank because I need money for medicine, should I go to jail, whether I brought my kid or not? I broke the law. Now, if someone's holding a gun to my head and says, I'm going to kill you if you don't rob the bank, that's a different story.
So, we're coming to the end of the hour.
Yeah.
I think this is something that we are definitely going to talk about next week.
Oh yeah,
Because this is a big one. I feel like a lot of us have lots of different thoughts about everything. Joanna says, very true. You're 100% correct, Sohaila. Stephanie, do you have any thoughts on this before we say our goodbyes?
I just, I just go back to my earlier comment and that this is our population in California, and however we got here, this is where we are, and so we got to work with it. That's my opinion.
Okay. Perfect. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Power Hour Panel Talk, where we come on live and talk about current events and just have the conversations that need to have. Now, we don't always agree. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but these conversations are important to have. And even if we don't agree with each other, at the end of the day, we are still colleagues and friends after this broadcast goes off. And that's something that I want to make sure that we can all continue to do. So whether you're watching this and you agree with one of us or don't agree with the other one, we can all come together and have the conversation. And that is the important thing. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Joanna, who was being part of the conversation from her keyboard, wherever she is in the world. And for everyone who's going to write in as well after the show, thank you so much for taking part in these conversations. And if you like this, actually, there's one more comment. Joanna giving a thumbs up. So there we go with Joanna and her thumbs up. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mel Andre. You can catch me every single Monday through Thursday at 9:30 a.m. That's Pacific time, and live with Mel. I talk about current events in the morning as well. And then you can also watch my show on Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire, all on the Easy Way Network. And you can stream all of season 1 because season 2 is on its way, and it's actually coming later on this winter. So the end of winter, you'll be able to watch season 2. And then to the, where are you on the screen? This side of me.
Hey. So we have Coffee with the Queens on Thursday morning. And this week we have you ever thought of putting a product together and making it into fruition and inventing something and having it go out to stores? Well, we're going to be talking with somebody who does just that. So join us with Amy Winslow on Coffee with the Queens this Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. and my belly dance classes on Wednesday nights.
And then who are you down there?
Stephanie.
I will do Stephanie first. Let me go this way. Stephanie, there we go.
That way.
Oh gosh, join me Tuesday and Friday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time for Mat Pilates. If you want more information, theleemethod.com.
And then now down there, I feel like I'm playing Hollywood Squares.
I know, right? And when you have something going on.
So we're still we're working on the Soldier Girl Coffee launch. Some things people don't understand is helping another business achieve their dream. You mold it, you help them, you help guide them. It's like kids. They're getting to that level. You give them a little pat on the butt. That pat on the butt, pushing them out is March 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern. They're going to do their virtual launch, and we're really excited for them.
Excellent. So guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Again, this is the Power Hour Panel Talk, where we come together to discuss current events and other events. We never finish everything that we have to talk about. We were supposed to talk about Tiger Woods as well, so I hope Tiger Woods is okay. That was your topic, Sohaila, and
yes.
we did not get to that because every single topic tonight ran overboard. So Misha says hi. So hi, Misha. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are at the end of the broadcast. We are so excited that you tuned in. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see everyone next Tuesday for the Power Hour panel talk.
And remember, if you like this, share it, guys. Share it.
Hit that share button.
Hit that share.
All right. All right, guys. So thank you so much. And this is the Power Hour panel talk. We'll see you guys next week.